Hey guys, now today I'm going to be telling a story about my neighbor from hell. Now, this is technically, I guess, multiple stories of my neighborhood, not the one I live now, but the one before I lived here. And there was a lot of interesting characters, so I'm just gonna talk about it. Specifically one person. I'm gonna go into detail about their antics, and yeah. So let's get into the story. So now, my neighbor that lived on my left side of me, I want to say, he was overall a pretty nice guy, I was friends with his daughter, even though she was quite a bit older than me. I believe she was 5 years or something older than me, but we did get along well and stuff. So, because we've been friends for so long. And now her dad, he was always kind of quiet and laid back, he was kind of dark, and I mean that in a sense, his eyes, how they set, and his hair, he was physically, he looked dark, And now, I think the kind of turning point when it started getting weird with him was that he painted his house, the entire house, it was this really, really dark, green, grayish, pukey type color, and there's kind of green in it too. My cat just walked in, so. But yeah, he did that, and he also, he yelled a lot. He would go outside and he would chop wood and put it on fire or whatever, and he would just yell. I'd be in my room and I'd hear him saying some unintelligible thing. And he would also blast Johnny Cash 24/7, super loud too. And even at nighttime too. We were trying to sleep and you're blasting Johnny Cash, which is something my parents definitely hated. And my dad, he especially hated it because that was not the kind of music he listened to at all. Now me, I was just I don't care, just stop. But with him, he was of all the music he could have blasted, Johnny Cash, really. So that really made him mad. That was the first kind of weird thing about my neighbors. And now the majority of this next part, I'm going to be talking about my other neighbor, and we're going to call her Ariel for the sake of the video. Now, Ariel moved in around when I was in 5th grade, I want to say. Again, she was 5 years younger than me, but I get along with a lot of people no matter their age. I have friends who are elderly, could probably be my grandma, and then I talk to kids. I like kids. I love having conversations with them. I love babysitting. So I'm friends with a lot of different people. So once she moved in, I first met her when my dog, Blizzard, he ran across the street because he has a habit of running everywhere when he shouldn't. So yeah, he ran across the street and he ran into their backyard and all that stuff. And I noticed there's swing set and all this stuff because they were just moving in, so that was good. And once we got him, I got inside and I was talking to her and she's oh, cool, do you want to play, blah blah blah. And I was yeah, sure, whatever. Because at that time she was what, 5 and stuff, and I was I want to play with the 5-year-old, but eventually I came to know her and I had nothing else to do, so I'm oh sure, I'll play with you. So once I started playing with her, I noticed that she was she had some issues. First thing is she copied almost everything I did, and I don't know about you, but that irked me so much because I was I know this isn't you. I know this is me and you're trying to do things like me. This isn't you. This isn't what you like. You didn't like it before I said something like that. Now in hindsight, it was obviously a kid trying to emulate somebody she looked up to a lot. And I definitely did not handle that well, but at the time I was really angry. For one instance, if I was drawing something, I was drawing flowers and stuff, I was oh hey, daisies are my favorite flowers, and she was going around about how roses would be her favorite flower. All of a sudden she'd be daisies, I am the daisy queen, yes. And another somewhat extreme portion of this was, I remember one time I was telling her that I really, really wanted a bunk bed. For years I've been wanting a bunk bed, And she was oh yeah, okay. And at this point she had a small, princessy bed, Literally 2 days later, I don't know what kind of money her mom had. I don't know what kind of, I don't know what happened, but she got a bunk bed. And now, let me keep this in mind, we had not said anything about, bunk beds or anything to each other about this prior to then. She had not expressed how she wanted one, and with all the other stuff of her copying me, that was so weird, and that was so oh my gosh, I did not like that. Now another thing she would do is she would give you kind of backhanded compliments, as we were kids. I remember this one time when I moved here, she came over and I was reading her a story I made, and she looked at me and she's at this point she was probably 10 because I've known her for that long, but at this point she looks at me and she goes, wow, that was actually a good story for once. And I was thanks, I guess. It was kind of weird how she was acting like that, I want to say. And but another thing is kind of weird what that happened is that can probably explain at least part of her behavior, is that her father died when she was like really close in age, you know, and actually while she was in the house that I lived in across the street from her. So I think that also contributed to a lot of what she did. Like, I remember this one time, this isn't related to her dad, but like I was like so angry because she was mean to me that she had like a trampoline, you know, and I was sat down there and I just cried. Like, I just cried. Like, I let somebody who was 5 years younger than me make me so sad that I cried because I just didn't like her. You know, I didn't like how she treated me. And you know, I think a lot of that I felt kind of cheated over because, like, you know, I taught her how to ride a bike. I taught her how to do a backflip on the trampoline. I thought I was being so nice to her, and she would just, like, copy everything I do and then, like, lie. And, you know, that's another thing, by the way. Like, she would lie a lot. Like, I remember this one time I was telling her a story, and I was like, oh, hey, like, this thing happened to me. Like, this person gave me, like, a pink glass of juice, you know, and she was like, oh yeah, the same thing happened to me, like, they gave me one too. And I was like, well, actually it was clear and I caught you in a lie, you know, and which I did not like. And she was like, she did this one thing, like, I think a lot of times her mom kind of pressured her to grow up a little bit, you know, like with her dad being gone, her mom was single, and like she had her and her brother with her, you know. So because I remember this one time she was like, I don't know what, 7 or something, and she had like so much mascara and like all that kind of stuff, and I was just like, you don't need this kind of stuff, you are like a little kid, like why are you getting these like makeup, which might be just like a small thing, but like to me it felt like she was kind of pressured to like grow up really fast, you know, which I did not like, I did not agree with. And then this is the part of the story where I talk about like specific other areas that happened. So this one time I was like babysitting them. It was the first time I've ever babysat before. I was like 12, so I was like really nervous, you know, and I was like with her and I was like making food, you know, and I was like, oh, what do you want to eat? And she was like, oh, ramen noodles. I was like, okay, cool. So I'm like opening it and like trying to do everything, and she was like, oh no, like, can I do it, like blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't want you to touch the hot stove, I don't want you to touch any area that's like that. And so we go back and forth arguing about it. I'm like, no, like, you can't do that. And she's like, well, why can't I? And I was like, because it's hot, like, don't do that. And so we just go back and forth, and she ends up like leaving. She literally ends up leaving and crying. I remember her saying, she was like, oh, well, like, I never thought like my babysitter could like make me cry or something. And I felt so bad about it. Like, maybe I could have like told her that in a different way and that kind of thing. But instead I was like, oh hey, like, I'm a babysitter, so you gotta listen to what I do. And it was just, yeah, it was a very good example of how both of us failed to handle things, like the one with trampoline. I believe I was crying because she was like leaving me out or something, and yeah. But this next part was like what really, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is crazy, like, what is she doing? Because it was like after like her dad, it wasn't her dad, it was her mom's boyfriend, he left, you know, and he was like, oh hey, can you watch the kids film? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm like playing with her and stuff, and like we're like messing around, jumping on the trampoline, and she was like, oh hey, I'm gonna like grab that pitchfork and I'm gonna like stab you. I don't know how this came to be, but like, oh my gosh, I thought she was joking. I was like, haha, like, try, blah blah blah. She literally goes over, grabs the pitchfork, starts chasing after me, and she's like chasing me out, and so I jump on the trampoline, but I'm like too slow, so she like just stabs me just a little bit with the pitchfork, but as seen, it was a pitchfork, and managed to draw blood. Now, as you can imagine, I was super mad at her because like, you just stabbed me with a pitchfork literally, and I was like bleeding, like, oh my gosh. And so, you know, she apologized and stuff. I was like, don't do that, like, why the heck would you like stab me with a pitchfork? And I'm back, I got animals in my face. So yeah. And another thing is, like, she was often really mean to her little brother, which, I mean, shouldn't I guess be surprised, because like, you know, that's what happens like with siblings, like, you be mean to each other. But like, for me, it just seemed like she was like so rude to him unnecessarily. She would like tell him to go off and do something and like lie to him like constantly, like, oh hey, do this because you'll help me this, like, oh hey. And like when they fought, like, they often like, it got physical really quick. Like, I think that was more on his end though, and not so much hers. But yeah, like, she would like be riding bikes and she would be like, oh hey, like, Sam, go that way, like, we don't want you here, like, blah blah blah, like, just really mean. And you know, that I did not like. So yeah, I think that's basically all I have that I can remember today, as this happened a very long time ago, and I'm happy to tell you that this girl is not so much like that anymore, as I've been talking to her a lot recently, and you know, a lot of stuff has happened then that have not been good to her, and I'm just really glad that like we've all matured and stuff, and that nobody's having issues anymore, and that as far as I know, I don't think she's lied as much as possible, because like then she lied all the time, she kept to me all the time, like it was crazy. But now I think everything's cool, so that's good. And if you liked this video, check out my channel for more. If you didn't, then I'm glad you watched the end of this video. So yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Why are all my animals coming?